Hi there, and welcome to our online workshop, Pathways to Success, Understanding Your Student Education Plan and Other Barstow Community College Tidbits. I'd like to start with a session overview. In this workshop, we're going to have an introduction and a welcome. Then we're going to talk about pathways and the different types of degrees that are available at Barstow Community College. We'll discuss student education plans, including certificates, associate's degrees, transfer associate degrees, and then we're also going to discuss the ed plan and how to read your ed plan. We'll look at how to know your estimated graduation date, and then we'll finish with a session recap and a thank you. So since we've already started with our session overview and a brief introduction, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Madison. I'm a Special Programs and Services Counselor. I'm really glad you're here joining me today for my online workshop, Pathways to Success. I'd like you just to sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride as we drive through the different pathways to your success. So let's get started. There are so many pathways to success, and we're trying to figure out which one works best for your goals. So looking at this photo, it asks some pretty important questions. The first one is, what type of education do you want? Are you at Barstow Community College looking for a certificate or an associate's degree? Or are you looking for a degree that sets you up for transfer to a university? These are all very important questions to ask yourself as you begin your Barstow Community College educational journey. The next question, it asks, what type of work do I want to go into? As counselors, we always encourage you to start with the end in mind. Do you know what line of work you want to go into? If you do, we can look at degree and certificate programs at Barstow Community College to find a match and to help you begin your educational journey. Do you want to go into cosmetology? Do you want to go into welding? Another CTE pathway that we can help you get onto. Do you want to learn more about humanities and focus on art classes, but you're not yet sure about transfer? That is a local non-occupational associate's degree. Do you know at some point you plan to transfer to university, but you have class interests as well? We have transfer degrees, and they offer a variety of classes in those degrees. So the third question the photo asks is, what type of degree is on my long-term plan? So having an idea of what type of work you want to do can really help you learn what kind of education you'll need for that line of work. If you want to be a teacher, you'll know you need a bachelor's degree as a minimum. If you want to be a counselor, all counselors are required to have a master's degree as a minimum. If you want to be a doctor, you'll definitely need your doctorate's degree. It's very common to not know or not be sure of your long-term goals, but your counseling and student success advising staff are here to help you if you're not sure. At the bottom of this photo, I just want to touch on the different stops that are listed on this pathway photo. Your first stop is your associate's degree. At Barstow Community College, you can either be working on a certificate or an associate's degree. That is your first stop. Should you continue your educational journey, the next stop would be a bachelor's degree, the next stop after that would be a master's degree, and the next stop after that would be a doctorate degree. All of these degrees require you to complete the degree before in order to move on to that higher educational facility. So now let's take a look at Barstow Community College degrees and pathways that we have available for you here. So first, let's talk about Barstow Community College and what we offer here. Not every student is going to be on the same pathway, and not every student is going to have the same educational goal. And we understand this. That's why we offer a variety of options to our students. Barstow Community College offers certificates, non-occupational associate's degrees, occupational associate's degrees, which are typically under CTE, Career Technical Education, as well as associate's degrees for transfer. In the next section of the workshop, we're going to explain what is offered, then follow it with a blank education plan in that area. According to the 2018-2019 Barstow Community College Catalog, the following Certificate of Achievement programs are currently offered: Accounting, Administration of Justice, Automotive, Child Development, including Level 1 Associate Teacher Permit, Level 2 Teacher Permit, Level 3 Master Teacher Permit, and Level 4 Site Supervisor Teacher Permit. Also offering cosmetology, diesel technology, family daycare, industrial maintenance electrical and instrumentation, industrial maintenance mechanic technology, management, management information systems, photography, supply chain management, welding, and according to the catalog, we also have Certificate of Career Preparation in Business Information Systems, Computer Office Specialist, as well as Level 1 Electrical Skills, Level 1 Industrial Maintenance Electrical and Instrumentation, Level 1 Industrial Maintenance Mechanic Technology, Level 2 Industrial Maintenance Electrical and Instrumentation, and Level 2 Industrial Maintenance Mechanic Technology, as well as pipe welding. A complete listing of certificates can be found in our Barstow Community College catalog. Beginning around page 108 is where they start listing certificates. Currently, our ed plans for certificates require English 50 or better, Math 101 or better, a computer course, and the major course requirements to meet graduation requirement. Let's look at an example ed plan. So here's an example of a certificate education plan. Currently, certificates are only one-page education plan. All other education plans are 2 pages, both front and back. Currently, our ed plans for certificates show an English 50 or higher requirement, Math 101 or higher requirement, and a computer literacy requirement on top of any major requirements required for that major. Here's the top of a certificate student education plan. You'll notice at the top it'll have Barstow Community College and a name, student ID, date, major. You'll notice where it says transfer, it says NA for not applicable. Certificates are not transferable. And then the counselor you met with when completing this education plan. The section right underneath it states it's a certificate of achievement, and it does state the 3 requirements we have on top of the major. So completing English 50 or higher, completing Math 101 or higher, and completing 1 computer literacy course that's 1 or more units to meet graduation requirements. The section right below that on your student education plan for certificate lists any major requirements. So you'll notice this is blank, but typically where it says course, it'll have a list of all the courses. Where the asterisk or the star symbol is, it will tell you if you need that class, if you've completed that class, in progress, etc. The units with the N column is your need units column. The units with the C column is your completed units column. So as you update your ed plan with your counselor, they'll move over your courses into the needs or the completed units. The final section of the certificate education plan has a top and a bottom. So at the top it tells any non-transferable coursework, your units total that you've taken at the college, units towards your certificate, and then there's also a projected schedule, counselor recommendation schedule. This is where a counselor would list any classes they recommend for you to take to meet graduation requirements. Now let's switch gears a little bit and talk about non-occupational associate's degrees at Barstow Community College. According to the 2018-2019 Barstow Community College catalog, the following non-occupational associate's degree programs are being offered: social science, humanities, natural science and math, and physical education. Our non-occupational degrees do not guarantee admission into another college or university, and admissions requirements for intended receiving institutions may vary. These degrees are for what is commonly called a local degree, meaning the student does not plan to transfer to a four-year university. For this degree, students are required to complete not only their major courses, but also 6 units in science, 6 units in social science, 6 units in humanities, 3 units of political science, 3 units of speech, 3 units of English 1A, which is college level English, 3 units under lifelong learning, math 55 or higher, 3 units in student development or orientation, 2 or more units of PEAC, which is PE, and 3 units of history, either 2A, 2B, or history 4, in also their major requirements. So let's look at an example of an ed plan. So I decided to do an example non-occupational associate's degree ed plan focusing on humanities. So the first big difference from a certificate is you'll notice it's 2 pages. It has more classes, there's more requirements for graduation. On page 1, although at the top it looks very similar, you'll notice there's a lot more classes being listed And then page 2 is kind of where you found the bottom half of the certificate. So let's look at it in a little more detail. So just like the certificate student education plan, the top of the non-occupational student education plan also has a place for the college name, the student name, student ID, the date, the majors listed as humanities. You'll notice also on this one under transfer it says NA for not applicable. This is a non-occupational, non-transfer associate's degree. And then there's a spot also for the counselor that the student met with. So looking at page 1 of the non-occupational education plan, the classes is the majority of the front page. It shows all the courses you need to meet graduation requirements, and it's broken down into subject sections. So if you look at the top, it'll say natural science, and then it has spots for 2 classes. Social science, spots for 2 classes. American institutions, U.S. history, a spot for political science, and a spot for a history class. Mathematics, Math 55 or higher. Physical education, 2 spots for that. Orientation, lifelong learning, and then your major requirements. So notice that English 1A is part of the major requirements, as is speech. And then it has 4 courses that says any. It's any 12 units in the humanities area. So they have art classes, they have history classes, humanities, music, philosophy, photo, religion, foreign language, theater of arts. There's a lot of classes that qualify in that area. And then underneath that, you'll notice the electives. There's 4 elective classes on there. And if you look down at the bottom, it says total of units, 60, and then it says 0, which I'll get into that a little bit later. All associate's degrees require 60 or more units to graduate. So you need those 4 electives to meet your 60 unit graduation requirement. So here's page 2, the top half of the non-occupational education plan. This is the back of your ed plan. At the top is shown non-transferable coursework. So this is coursework that's typically pre-college level or not transferable. For example, if you got tested into Math 101, that would be placed back here. Any remedial type of courses would get placed back here. Underneath that, you'll see a box for counseling notes. That's a note that either the counselor can leave for you or the counselor can leave for another counselor. Should you go see a different counselor, they'll know, what you guys had talked about. Next to that is unit totals. We'll get more into unit totals later in the presentation as we do a how to read your education plan. Now also on the back page or page 2 is the bottom section of the non-occupational education plan. This is where your counselor will write out all of your classes. So when you meet with a counselor, it's broken down by square. So the first green square will say what term it is, including the year, and the green square next to it will say what units. Those 8 white boxes underneath may include your classes. Some counselors will write how many units each class is worth. Each 10 square box is 1 term. So you have your top 2 green squares and then your bottom 8 white boxes. If you're part of special programs and services, you get all your courses typed up from start to graduation on what the counselor recommends for your classes each semester. So let's move into occupational associate's degrees at Barstow Community College. According to the 2018-2019 Barstow Community College catalog, the following occupational or CTE career technical education associate's degrees programs are offered: accounting, administration of justice, automotive technology, business, child development, cosmetology, diesel technology, IMMT, IME and IT, management, photography, supply chain management, and welding. So here's an example occupational associate's degree education plan. It looks very similar to the non-occupational associate's degree education plan. It is 2-sided. It's broken down by different courses. Your major requirements are towards the bottom and your electives. But again, I'll go through it in more detail like I have in the previous ed plans. So like all previous examples, the top of the occupational student education plan has Barstow Community College, a spot for the student's name, their ID number, the date. It'll list their major. The example I'm using today is our IMMT occupational ed plan. Transfer NA, this is not applicable for transfer, and then it has a spot for the counselor. So similar to the non-occupational education plan, the majority of the front page is all the courses needed to meet graduation requirements. Again, it's broken down by section. You have your natural science. In this ed plan, you'll notice they need one. A social science, they need one course. Humanities, they need one course. American institutions, so they either need political science or history. They need a speech course, a computer course, English 1A, any math 55 or higher, 2 PE classes, orientation, and then their major requirements are listed, followed by any electives. So if you remember from non-occupational ed plans, you need 60 or more units to meet graduation requirements. You'll notice down here at the bottom it says 62.5. Some education plans do require more than 60 units. It's the nature of the education plan. But this is a good example of an occupational education plan. So now I'd like to transition into the transfer associate's degrees at Barstow Community College. According to the 2018-2019 Barstow Community College catalog, the following transfer associate's degrees are offered. These are listed as our ADT degrees. That means a degree for transfer. So those listed are Administration of Justice, Art History, Business Administration, Early Childhood Education, English, History, Political Science, Psychology, and Sociology. So here's an example transfer associate's degree education plan. I'm using the Administration of Justice ADT degree to use as an example. There are a few things that are different on an ADT degree versus our other degrees that are local, occupational or non-occupational. So although the front and the top of it look similar, you'll notice in the yellow box it says Administration of Justice ADT degree requirements. That in itself shows if it's transfer or not. We have some other social science type degrees that also transfer that are not ADT, but it'll say social science for transfer. That's how you know if you're working on a transfer degree. So another go around at the top of a transfer student education plan, just like all the other tops of education plans, it has a spot for Barstow Community College, your name, student ID number, date, major. The example that I am using today is Administration of Justice, and you'll notice on this one where it says transfer, it does not say NA for not applicable. This is a transfer education plan, so here is where a counselor may list what school you're thinking of transferring to, and then again a name spot for the counselor that you met with. So our transfer degrees are broken down by area, and I want to go through it a little thoroughly. So this is our Administration of Justice ADT degree requirements, and you'll notice it says Area A, Communication in the English Language and Critical Thinking, and then in parentheses, Area A. You need a minimum of one course in Area 1, Area 2, and Area 3 for a total of 9 units. Area 1 is Speech 1, Oral Communication. Area 2 is English 1A, Written Communication. Area 3 is English 1C, Critical Thinking. And then you'll notice next to it, it says course, and it lists what course is needed to meet that requirement. In the asterisk, it says all ends right now. At the top, you'll look and it says C equals completed, IP equals in progress, N equals needed, R equals repeat, T equals transfer. I'm going to go into more detail in a later slide about this, but I just want you to be familiar with it. And then you'll notice next to it, it has the need units column and then the completed units column. So as classes are completed, the units will slowly move over from need unit to completed units, letting you know what classes you've already completed. So next up is Area B, Physical Universe and its Life Forms. This is your math and science area. So B1 is your physical science, B2 is your life science, and B4 is your mathematical concepts. Please be aware if you are planning to transfer, you do have to take physical science and life science, and one of those science courses must have a lab component. Now let's talk about Area C. Area C is Arts, Literature, Philosophy, and Foreign Language. Area C1 is your art component, Area C2 is your humanities component, and Area C3 is one additional course from either area above. So in C1, you can take art history, drawing, painting, different types of art classes. There's humanities, music, photo, theater of art. And then in Area C2, you have some English, history, humanities, philosophy, religion, foreign language. And then in Area C3, it's one additional course from C1 or C2. So say in Area C1, you really enjoyed taking music too, and you want to take it again. Unfortunately, you can't repeat a class, you can't double dip, it doesn't count as the same. So you would have to take Music 3 or look at one of the other options. It cannot be a class that you've already taken for credit. So the final sections of the first page of our transfer degree is Area E, which is lifelong learning, your major requirements, and then any electives that you may have. So lifelong learning includes Biology 11, Child 4, Health 1, 2, or 7, Student Development, some psychology classes, a sociology class. You have a couple options when you're picking a course in that area. The major requirements, Administration of Justice is our example. So for Administration of Justice, you must take ADJU1 and ADJU3. And then you'll notice underneath that it says choose 2 courses from the following, and there's a list of a bunch of courses. You only need to take 2 of those courses. So say you take ADJU2 and ADJU5, that will count and meet that requirement. Underneath that, it's 2 more courses for electives, so it's Soc 1, Psych 12 or Soc 12, Math 2, Psych 1, ADJU 6, ADJU 15, 16, or 17. You just need 2 of those courses to meet that requirement. When you're looking at this and it says electives, this major needs 4 electives to meet 60 or more units. History 2A, 2B, and 4 are highly recommended, as is Political Science 1. They're not required to get your associate's degree, but some universities do require them for transfer, so that's why they're highly recommended. If you have follow-up questions, feel free to reach out to a counselor. We can look at what college it is you're trying to transfer to and see if it is required or if it's just highly recommended. So next up is our student education plan. We already talked a little bit about certificates, non-occupational associate's degrees, occupational associate's degrees, or known as CTE, as well as associate's degrees for transfer. Your ed plan is important because it shows you all the classes from start to graduation for your degree or certificate at Barstow Community College. Your ed plan shows you exactly what classes you need, so you don't have to guess when it comes time to register. So we covered the 4 types of ed plans today. I want to go through a how to read your ed plan as you begin your educational journey. So like many of our other ed plan examples, this is a 2-page how-to. This is an example, and I want to break it down section by section, just like I had done in previous slides. If you want a copy of this how-to, please contact any counselor or the counseling department or visit us on our Canvas site. This how-to is located on there as well. So let's get started with the top section of the education plan. Just like every other example I gave, the top section's very similar. It starts with Barstow Community College. It has a place for your name. In this example, it says Barstow student, your student ID number, which is your B number, the date, the major. This is a social science for transfer example. And then if it's a transfer degree, so remember in some of our previous slides for certificates, non-occupational, and occupational associate's degrees, they do not list for transfer because they're not transfer ready, whereas this example is a transfer ready example. And then it also has a spot for the counselor that you met with. Okay, so this example education plan is a transfer degree, and transfer degrees are broken down by area. So you'll notice it's kind of sectioned. There's area A, which is speech, English 1A, English 1C. That's your speech and English. You have area B, which is physical universe and its life forms. So that's your physical science, life science, and math. And then you have area C, arts, literature, philosophy, and foreign language. In this part of the how-to, it shows 2 tips. The first tip in the column with the asterisk, it shows where your courses are. If you need them, with an N. If you've completed them, it shows a C. If you need to repeat them, it shows an R. If you transferred units in, it shows a T. Or if it's a class you're currently registered for, it's in progress, which is an IP. So you'll notice up here in the top where it says C equals class completed, Speech 1, there's a C next to it, English 1A, there's a T, you transferred that in. English 1C, in progress, it's a class you're currently registered for. If you go down to the next section, B1, the N means you still need that class. Biology 2, there's an R, that means repeat. So there's a difference if you need to repeat it or if you already have repeated it. So the columns next to it, you have your need units column and your completed units column. In Biology 2, it means repeat. The 4 units are in the need units column. That means you still have to repeat that class. The second tip on this page shows that any refers to choosing any class from that section. So their example they gave is B1 where it says any. You can choose any physical science in that area. So a fun fact about science and transfer, you need both a physical science and a life science. One of those courses must have a lab component. So on this example, Biology 2, should the student repeat that class, that has a lab component. So in area B1, it doesn't matter if they take one with a lab or not. You know that a science has a lab component if it has an L next to it or a separate lab section, or if the course is 4 or more units. So looking at area B1, you'll notice that it's ASTR1 and ASTR1L. That's Astronomy 1 and Astronomy 1 Lab. You'll notice next to that it says Chem 1L, that's Chem 1. There is a lab component to that. So just a small fun fact. So let's continue on to the bottom part of page 1 of our Ed Plan How-To. Area D is your social, political, and economical institutions and behavior area. This is a social science transfer degree. So history and political science are part of the social science area D category. Underneath there is lifelong understanding and development, followed by physical education, and then orientations and any electives that you may need. In this part of the how-to, it shows 3 tips. The first tip, courses marked with an asterisk, the star symbol, means they're not regularly offered at Barstow Community College. Sometimes it's an instruction issue, we're waiting for a teacher, sometimes it's just not offered in that semester. The second tip is electives. So you'll notice that not all education plans require electives. Electives are used to get students to reach the 60 or more unit graduation requirement. Some education plans have mandatory electives, so if you're a nursing or medical type of major, there's a certain science sequence they have to take, so those are mandatory electives that they have to take. The third tip, it talks about units. So there's 2 columns of units, one marked N for your need units column, and one marked C for your completed units column. Courses you need will be in the first column. Courses you've completed successfully are in the second column. All associate's degrees require 60 or more units, so you always want to make sure your units total 60 or more. Some degrees require more than 60 units, and that's okay too. Just make note to try not to take many extra courses. Only a certain number of units will transfer over to university. So page 2 of our example education plan. On the back of the transfer example education plan, it shows non-transferable coursework. This is any courses that are not college level. So you'll notice on this example, it says English 101, English 102, English 50. Those classes have a C next to them. We learned that C means complete, and then the units completed. Underneath that, you'll find a space for counselor notes. Counselors might leave notes here so the next counselor you meet with has updated information. There's also a tidbit on total units, so it lists any non-transferable coursework, whereas units towards your degree includes transferable coursework only. So you might see a discrepancy between the two. And then the last tidbit they talk about is unit totals are brought over from the front of page of the Ed Plan. So the degree applicable units earned, and then the units you still need, and then it should total whatever your units needed for your degree to graduate would be. So the last part of our how-to is the bottom part of page 2 on our how-to example. This is your projected schedule. This is counselor recommendations. All counselors will list at least 1 or 2 semesters on the back of your ed plan. If you're part of special programs and services, our counselors will list from start to graduation. So the day you meet with us until your final semester here, we'll list all counselor recommended classes for your schedule. It's recommended to see a counselor once per term to make sure you're on track. If you're in special programs and services, we require 3 counselor visits per term as part of our program requirements, so no extra counselor contacts are required for SPS students. So now the most important question of them all, when will you graduate? If you're a special programs student, that means EOPS, CARE, CalWORKS, or Access. The counselors will list from start to graduation, and the last term you have classes listed on the bottom of your second page will be the term showing your estimated graduation date. If you're not special programs and services, look up the list of courses that you need. You want to meet with a counselor or an advisor, or you can even write out yourself what classes you need and try to plan them each term and see how long it'll take you. You want to make sure to follow any sequences you may have. Examples include a math sequence, or an English sequence, or a science sequence if you're any sort of medical field. Let me give you an example. Okay, so I'm going to use the example of the non-occupational humanities degree. Looking at this front of the ed plan, it shows me that I need 2 science classes, 2 social science classes, 2 classes in American institutions, Math 55, 2 PE classes, orientation, lifelong learning, English 1A, speech 1, 4 major classes, and 4 electives. So if I'm trying to map out my education without using a counselor or an advisor, I'll make a list of all the classes that I need, and then I'll list my plan. I know that I can handle 5 classes each term. I know that I tested into Math 50, so I'll have to take Math 50 before I take Math 55. I also know that I tested into English 50X, so I have to take that before I can take English 1A. So not only do I have my classes to the left, I have to add Math 50 and English 50X to my list of classes needed. So when I start mapping out, I want to start with my math and English sequences and then go through all my courses that I have to take and how I think I might want to take them. So when I listed it out for this semester, I'm taking math and English, orientation, lifelong learning, and a social science class, 5 classes. In the spring, I'd like to take Math 55, English 1A, Science, one of my major courses, and a PE class, 14 units. In the summer, I'd like to take speech and an elective and my final PE class to get it out of the way. And next fall, I'd like to take my science with a lab, a major course, another major course, social science and history, 16 units. And then spring 2020, I can take a major course, an elective, political science, and then my final 2 electives. If I follow this education plan and pass all my classes with C's or better, my estimated graduation date would be spring 2020, which is approximately May 2020. So an estimated graduation date, you want to emphasize on the estimated because we all know life happens. Your graduation date will change if you take less units per term, if you take more units per term, if you fail a course and have to repeat it, if you take time off, etc. You also want to make a note. The last semester you take your last course at Barstow Community College is when you're going to petition to graduate. So you don't finish your classes and drop your papers and woo, I'm out of here. You have to come and meet with a counselor. The counselor is going to complete your graduation petition form, and that lets Barstow Community College know that you've met all graduation requirements and you're ready to receive your degree. So I know I threw a ton of information your way during this online workshop, and perhaps it raised some questions. I highly recommend reaching out to a counselor or student success advisor. We're experts with experience guiding students in certificate and degree programs. We can help set you up for success when it comes to planning your educational journey. We can help you pick your classes, and we can help you figure out your estimated graduation date. Please visit our Counseling and Advising Canvas page or come visit us on campus. Friendly reminder, we're here for you. So a quick session recap. In this online workshop, we started with an introduction and a welcome. We talked about pathways and the different types of degrees available at Barstow Community College. We discussed the student education plan and how to read it. We also looked at how to estimate your graduation date. And then this session recap followed by a quick thank you. Thanks again for joining me on this online workshop. I know your time is valuable and I really appreciate you spending it with me today. I hope that this answered all of your education plan questions, but if you have any follow-up questions for this presentation, feel free to reach out to Student Success and Equity or to Special Programs and Services, or please come meet with one of our awesome counseling and advising staff on campus. We have online counseling as well as telephone calls available for counseling appointments. Again, feel free to reach out. Use this as you need to, and thanks again for your time.